to another video. And in today's video, I do want to give you guys an update on the NASDAQ, the SNP500, as well as the US30 there as well. If you're new here, a sub would be appreciated, as I provide valuable educational content on a daily basis. If you enjoy the video, a thumbs up would be appreciated there as well. If you have followed my breakdown that I did 2 days ago on the dollar index and the Japan yen, you sort of been, well, you've been able to make some good money there as well. But we're not going to speak about the index today. We're just going to run through this here as well. But before we get there, it's very important to understand what is the story behind these market movements. So the last time I spoke about the NASDAQ100, the market was sitting at this level, obviously explaining all of the reasons why I want to see this pullback. And we can see that is not basically what the market did. So we had that move to the downside, basically stuck in a consolidation. We had that liquidity wicks down to the downside and to the upside there as well. We do know that we do have the NFP coming through Friday, and like I spoke to you guys before high impact news are released, the market tends to move sideways because this is used for liquidity before the market makes the next big move. Now I'm going to give you guys an update also, and the best way to see this basically is you can see if you go on the 4-hour time frame and you mark out these patterns, sorry, not patterns, but you mark out these levels in the market over here, you can see that this was clearly a liquidity wick, and this was also liquidity. You can see the market's busy jumping the gun here as well, and who knows, the market might close there, it might not close, but there is a possibility for the NASDAQ to go and hit this level over there. But again, it could happen, it could not happen, but I want to give you guys, based on my findings, what the next big move is going to be on here as well. Starting over here with the article that we got over here, and this is from a fundamental perspective. Again, we've got NFP coming through, and like I said before high impact news is released, market tends to move sideways there as well. Now we have this article over here from the Stock Market Wednesday, basically speaking about the Feds are keeping investors on the edge purely based off food prices are relief. But you can see the market's climbed on Wednesday, which is very stupid to say because the market is consolidating. So when the market goes down, they're going to say the market fell. When the market goes up, people's going to say the market had jumped. Despite moderation of food prices, we still know that Russia and Ukraine is still at war. And we've got combined with an extremely hot and dry spell in Europe could disrupt food supply, which well weigh on food prices. Now going back to over here, it says here that investors are being kept on their heads because of few food prices, and basically what's going on between Ukraine and Russia could affect that as well, and Europe. But even more so, we can see here that it says here investors believe that this step might hurt the already wounded relations between the US and China, which may lead to the stock prices of numerous countries to falter. What that is, it's just a repeat of what we saw when the US had imposed certain bans on China, and also during the pandemic when China were the first people to go into that lockdown there as well, and we basically saw the stock market plummeted, and we're going to see the repeat of that taking place here as well, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to remove that. Also, we know that the US is currently not really, but might be potentially in a recession, and the reason for that is very simple. We know that the GDP came through negative, and they say in the word on the street is if when the GDP comes through negative 3 times in a row, that automatically puts a country in a recession, and that is exactly what we saw with the US GDP data. And this article from CNET says that is the US officially in a recession? What to know about layoffs, debt, and investing. Now we're going to go with the factual information, which is GDP data that was released 3 times in a row that came through negatively for the dollar index. And what that means for the stock market is during a recession, stock prices typically plummet, and it takes about 12 months after the recession ended and for the stock market to recover themselves again. And we saw this happen 91% of the time since 1953. Now with that in mind, and with the NFP in mind, we also have the unemployment claims coming through as well, which is basically an indicator of how many people had lost their jobs and filed for unemployment claims, which is also known as the UIF. Now you can see basically this is what the NASDAQ is doing now. NASDAQ is stuck in a consolidation phase. Next up we do have the US30 over here also. there's been some movement on the US30, but the US30 has found this level. Now, this was the last time that I spoke about the US30 as well. You can see the market started melting to the downside without any drawdown there as well. Now, basically what we are starting to see here, it could be the start of this consolidation as well. And then we do have the S&P 500 also. Now, I'm going to still give you guys a breakdown. You can see the S&P 500 also just moved down slightly based off what I said. Now, we're going to start with the analysis here on the NASDAQ100 from a technical perspective. Now, I don't want to drag this out longer than it is, so I'm just going to use the daily time frame. Now, I can see on the daily time frame the market broke above the strong level of resistance. Once resistance is broken, it becomes support. And if you take your Fibonacci from the low to the high of this massive impulse, we do have a 50% pullback lining up perfectly with that structure. And it's a rule of thumb that normally after the market makes a massive bullish impulse to the upside, that a 50% pullback is required, and in this case it's lining up perfectly with this level. Now my bias on this still stands. We can still see the NASDAQ come and hit this level, and then from there we can then once again still monitor price action from there. Again, if the top data that is forecasted by the Dow Jones could also move the market slightly higher, but because like I said, we are in a, the market's waiting for that data to come, scalpers could potentially come in and then just ride this move to the just ride the move sideways. Next up, we do have the Dow Jones showing some very interesting price action. Also, what we see over here is the Dow Jones also broken above this level of resistance, never came back to test it as support. But if you take your Fibonacci from the low from the low to the high of the impulse, you can see the Dow Jones had come back to hit the 0.382. Now I'm going to use this as structure because structure is normally formed when a green candle is printed next to a red candle, and we could potentially see the Dow Jones also during the rest of the week up until Friday. The Dow Jones is also going to start this again, guys. That easier to scalp. The market can once again make use of this also. And then next up, we do have the S&P 500, and not a lot to see here. Same price action as the NASDAQ. Resistance got broken, became support. You guys know the drill. This market is also moving sideways, so if you are looking to scalp the market, you're more than happy to do it between the lateral part of today and tomorrow. And then we'd got the NAP coming through on Friday. But it's always, you always have to be reactive, not predictive, and learn to adapt to the ever-changing market. If you have seen the history of the NASDAQ throughout the week of the NFP, you would know the market tends to move sideways. But with all the data that is in place, it shows that the stock market has still not cleared the rally to the downside. And with everything that's currently going on in the world, with the war and with Ukraine, and all of these things is a trigger that the stock market will once again fall to the downside. But I will make a breakdown as I collect the data for you guys. I want to say thank you for your time, and as always, cheers for years, my good friends.